So I'm just tilting her up to get her in a good position to work on it. I'm going to grab the serve form rasp and start moving on that front part of the comb to move it back towards the butt plate because I don't like the curve that's in it right now. So I'm just getting myself a starting place about where I want it to be. Taking an eyeball, bending down, taking an eyeball, see if it's about where I want it to move to. Basically there I was just shading my eyes from the video light. Taking it down, I want to get it to the curve that's on the top of the pistol grip area there behind the receiver. I'm trying to take it down to where that will blend into that curve. That's what my idea is. And this is a pretty coarse tool. This takes a lot of wood away real quick. And now I'm pointing out the fact that there is a point in front of it and an edge on the side that will need to be blended in later. And I discuss this once my mic does come on, but just to cover it a little bit before. I think I'm going to move to a different file now. I'm going to move to a rasp here and take that bump out. Do some blending, starting to blend that in. I believe that's the 8-inch blue Dan. Yeah. So I'm blending that little edge, that little bump that I made in the front, and I also have edges on the sides that I need to blend in. And I do mention it later on, but if you'll notice that I'm using what I refer to as a forward and sideways movement in my rasp, that's a good blending move. I'm working more on the side towards the camera so you can see what I'm doing. You can still see a sharp edge there, and that will eventually be blended into. You see I've switched to the flat side of the rasp, and I'm starting to move up closer to the receiver. You take the bump off, and then you blend. Now I'm moving to a cabinet file to further smooth that out. The half round side I'm using more where I want a rounded or a flowing edge, and the flat edge, the flat side, I use more when I'm blending into more of a flat area on the stock, which is that nearest to the receiver. And as I move off that sharp edge that I've made towards the camera there, right where the flute is going to be, I did switch over for a moment to the round side, the half round side. Obviously I'm talking, but I don't recall what I was going to say. I do know that that slope, the point of that comb slopes down too much for my tastes, and I was probably wondering exactly what I was going to do there. I think I was telling you about not being able to put wood back, which I do go over once my mic comes on. That's the area that we pointed out earlier in the previous video. That was a high spot that we had smoothed down. Now I'm going to start deepening the flute and refining the flute. I'm using a rat tail rasp. And the movements I'm making now are not only deepening it, but I'm starting to work up. If you can see right now, I'm working up to that edge where their line, the CZ's line was. Nice sharp line is what makes it pretty, not a blended, fuzzy, blunt line. And that's what I'm working at. And I will use it right now. I'm using that rasp blend. The rasp is obviously going to cut in a gouge or a groove, and I was pushing it forward and sideways more towards the end of the pistol grip to blend it in, right where my hand is now. I'm demonstrating a karate chop right there. Not really. Pointing out the edge, the sharp edge there that needs to get blended. And we're just about ready, less than a minute to go till I turn my mic on. So, and I will go over some of the things I've already said in this voiceover and things that I knew I had missed when my mic was off. So I'm going to sign off on the voiceover right now, and we'll pick it up when I turn my mic on. Hey guys, I forgot to turn on my microphone. Just did it now, so I'm going to have a voiceover in the video. Like I said, you can't you can't put the wood back. And speaking of that, I did say prior to switching my mic on that you can't take wood off. You can't put wood back. Sorry, we can take wood off. You can't put wood back. But what I did say earlier, and I want to repeat now since you guys didn't hear it, no, we cannot put wood back. If somebody would cut a little V in here with a knife or take that rat tail rasp, put a circular groove in there, we could not fill that up with wood. It's not body putty. It's not a car. It's not metal. We can't weld something in. But what we can do is lower what's beside the gouge. Say there's a gouge right where my finger is. We could lower the whole rest of this plane, this surface, to get to the bottom of that. Then it would look all right. Now you can only do it so much. Obviously, we can only do it so much. But that's something that you can use to fix a mistake, a deep mistake. So what we did, another thing you missed here is I started to refine this flute, and I had taken the point of the comb back. I'm using the rat tail file. I'm deepening it. I want it to be more, I want it to be straighter. Instead of it being like that, I'm going to angle it a little bit like that. And the reason I'm doing it really, I like the angle they have on there, don't get me wrong, I like the angle, but I want to get some sharpness to the edge of my flute, and I can't do that at the angle it's at. You notice I'm protecting my receiver. Can you see that in the, yeah, a little bit. I'm protecting my receiver with some duct tape. Good, good, good. It's sharpening up some. And I got to tell you something that I've pretty much determined. I'm not happy about it, but pretty much determined that's what it's going to be. I'm afraid I'm going to have to stain this thing with a walnut stain. I just don't think I'm going to get below the factory walnut stain to go ahead and make it red, stain it red. So I went back in the wood room after I made that decision, and it's not set in stone yet, and I looked for some contrasting wood that I could use for a grip cap and a fore-end tip, and I found some Osage orange that definitely would work there, and I think that would be sort of nice. I really can't reach here because I'm going to definitely get bitten, the receiver's in the way. If you see, I'm looking, here's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at this line, and right now it's not a straight line. I'm trying to straighten it out here. Sometimes I'll use gouges, which is, those who don't know, is a curved chisel. Sometimes I'll use gouges when I'm putting in flutes. I don't know if that'll happen on this one. We'll find out. So that probably, let's tell you what. Let's tip her up here. Can you see that still? Yeah, good. Like I was saying, I think I was saying it before I turned on my mic. Since I lowered this area and pulled this point of this comb back, I now have a sharp edge here. That happens. It's not like the end of the world. We knew it would happen. Here comes the famous crossing file. Crossing files, when you use them, like I said, it's a varying radius. The whole thing is smaller, the radius smaller down here, larger up here, obviously. When I taught students to do metalwork, filing was one of the most difficult things people had tried to pick up. They had a hard time picking it up. We can push a file straight, just like I'm doing here, and I'm doing that to refine that point of that comb a little bit. Okay, but to blend something in with a file, I use the words push it forward and sideways. Okay, so forward and sideways, and I'm going to blend in what I've done there by moving the point of that comb back. And like I said in the rasp and file video, the tool selection video, in my opinion there's no tool that can do this like the crossing file does. You can use a half round, you can use a rat tail, but just doesn't do it like a crossing file. So I'm going to clean up. And you notice I'm switching sides of the file. I'm going to have to do a little left-handed action here only because I'm filming. I'm not left-handed. I'm going to have to think about this area, guys. I'm going to have to think about it. But so far, what we're doing here is detailing that flute. Remember there was this flat area here? We're going to take care of that right now too. Let me get the light to shine off there. See that area right there? As I move it, it reflects. It's flat. It's flat. This is another perfect place for the crossing file. Tell you what, I'm going to show you that it's flat. See, it's still shining. Can you see that? It's still shining there where I've filed all the way around it. It's flat. There's proof. All right. So I'm going to use the crossing file with the forward and sideways motion to bridge that. If you notice, I'm jumping over it where I know it's flat. I don't want to file it anymore. It's flat. I don't want it to go lower. So as I do my forward and sideways, I'm basically jumping right over that on purpose. But it's getting there very quickly, isn't it? Very quickly we're getting that out. Why am I going the other way? I don't know. Sometimes you just feel that works. We're getting it out. Look at it now. We're starting to hit. I'm starting to not jump over it as much. I'm blending the wood around it. When I got since I've got the crossing file out here, and you're seeing what I'm doing there, this is a good file to detail our, what would you call it? I don't know, our crease. Our crease. I would use the flatter side of it and the forward and sideways movement there on both sides. I'll do a little backwards action here. I know there's a lot of shadow there. I hope you're seeing it. And I'm not doing this as my final finish on here. I'm just letting you see another use for the crossing file. You can really sharpen that little curve up. Notice the small movements. It's sort of like I was talking about earlier. Less pressure and sometimes smaller movements. I mean, when we were taking this down with the rasps, it was full action, right? But here, I'm working just the edge of my crossing file in there. Once I've got a nice line, I can move out and blend. And if I wanted to, I could put a nice sharp crease in there. Now, of course, when we sand, we've got to be very careful to keep the crease. We'll get to the sanding video. Sanding video has got to be pretty boring, but we'll get there. Anyway, just another use of the crossing file. Let's go back to here. Let's get that bump, that flat spot out of there for good. Okay. You've noticed too, probably, I have used the file cleaner because, like I had said, I believe in the rasp and file video that they get loaded up. A finer file gets loaded up and it doesn't cut anymore. So that's why you use it. Why did I jump down here? Well, I noticed that little peak there. I'm like, well, I'm going to deal with that while I'm here. That's one thing, too, I wanted to say. I was working down here myself without filming today, and I thought I need to tell them this. You don't work in one space continually, one place continually. If I only worked here and neglected the rest of it, it just catch up with you. Just catch up with you. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to switch to a half-round file and use the flat side here. I'm definitely bypassing that flat spot when we're using a flat file. The crossing file I could easily sort of dip in there, and I was some. Even this file, as with most, forward and sideways, forward and sideways. We got her out. We got her out. There's obviously finish in there. I'm looking, I'm thinking, okay, this line needs to come back some again. And if I would continue to work on getting this plane thinner, remember I talked about getting this whole thing thinner and moving it forward, lowering it so that the comb is not so thick up here. As I would do this, this cut would change and I'd have to go back and get it where I want it again. I think I'm about ready to cut this. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to cut in the other flute while you're watching. I'm thinking, at least start it. You know what? I'm not, because until I've got this one where I want it, I don't want to start putting in the other one. So I'm going to get off camera. I'm going to put this flute where I want it. I'm going to do something up here, man. I'm going to do something up here. Definitely blend that in. That's looking better. So I'm going to get off camera. Yeah, that's going to look better. I'm going to slope this. It looks like it's going to be decent if I do that. I'm going to take it, I don't know, maybe from there, halfway through I'm just going to round that whole thing off. You know what, I might detail that a little more. It's one of those things, like I said, you watch what you're doing and you think and you definitely sleep on it. I'll probably be working on this area, I'll bet you 2-3 days. Well, today's 2. Probably 3 or 4 days. Because I will sleep on it. I take it upstairs with me and I hold it and I check both sides and I eyeball it all up. So, yeah. Yep. Definitely, you know, since we have this curve here, this might not be a bad time to use a chisel because I can pull this back, which is what I want to do. I want to get this line. I don't like the way that line goes right now. But if I chisel in here, I can take that area. I think I'm going to do that. I'll tell you what, I'm going to pause here, take my mic off. I'm going to go get me a chisel. Wood likes to be cut more in one direction than another. So I can tell by looking at this, pretty sure, that this wood will be preferred to be cut. No, it looks like it will be preferred to be cut this way. Let's find out if I'm right. Okay, I'm going to take this. This is a gouge. It's a rather shallow gouge. Move that line with the gouge. Oh yeah, that looks a lot better, right? I'm going to take my glasses off. One of those people that I can see closer with my glasses off sometimes. That's not bad. That's not bad. Here's where we come to. Now remember I had said I wanted that rather straight. I wanted this flute rather straight, but I'm liking it. I'm liking it right there. If I'd straightened it out and didn't like it anymore, no way I'm going to get that wood back. So I'm going to leave that. I like that detail right now. I hope you can see it. Let me rotate her up here a little bit for you. I like it. I think it's looking pretty nice. So definitely I'm going to get off camera here. Get this side down to where I want it. And I don't know if I'll come back to put the flute in on the other side. I'd like to, but the camera and the lights and all really restrict me. So we'll see. I'd like to show you guys some of that. Signing off for now. I'm back and I've detailed this flute on the right hand side. I've got the camera in hand and I don't have it on a tripod right now. I want to get that shadow for you, and that's the way I've been able to do it. Got the red shop rag behind it, but you can see I've got a pretty nice line, but there's a problem. Hold on.